Evening, everyone. Welcome to our October 13th, 2021 Planning Board meeting. Everyone, please join me and stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Dave, would you please take the roll call?
Chairman John
I'm sorry,
Curry.
I meant Steve. I apologize. Sorry.
I'll answer to most things.
Okay.
Chairman John Curry.
Here.
Vicky Gannon.
Here.
Nancy Garbino.
Here.
Dennis McNamara.
Here.
Jack Mattis.
Here.
Bruce Prince.
Here.
And Christopher Zaberto.
Present via Zoom.
Thank you. First on our agenda is the draft minutes from September 8th, 2021. Everybody had a chance to read them? Any?
Yes.
Yes, any changes, corrections, or anything?
No, they
They
were
make-
wonderful.
Yes, as always, they're very well done. Make a motion to approve the minutes from September 8th, 2021 as presented.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We're going to have a presentation discussion from Councilman Anthony Sirico about the telecommunications task force update. Anthony, thank you very much.
Well, thank you, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, everyone, on behalf of the town board, I mean, we thank you for all the good work that you do. It's volunteer work. The town runs on volunteers, and this is one of the very important boards. What I wanted to talk to you about tonight was telecommunication task force. There's a couple of things that are coming up, and just want to raise your level of visibility. And I have an ask, and I'm going to say it 3 times. So first off, we started telecommunications task force as an outcome of the storm at Isaias. And if you recall, abysmal performance in some of the telecommunications companies, as well as some of the utility companies. Our utility company happened to do pretty well, but we had a round with them 3 years prior, bringing them to the table, and it worked. They responded. With regards to the telecommunications, Altice more specifically, I mean, abysmal performance. They weren't prepared for the storms. Didn't have proper inventory, did not have proper power supply, didn't have proper staffing. And so, the town was getting all these calls as a result of, people can't getting contact with some of the customer service organizations. So we put together sort of a customer bill of rights, and one of them was, look, you have to have escalation and you have to have contact and so on. But in the meantime, the good people in the supervisor's office, as well as, Jack Mattis and, Chris Zabeto, who was on the task force. We also had, folks from the town, the highway supervisor, the fire department, all coming together to sort of, and maybe about 20 or 30, maybe 20 individual residents at the time. And the purpose of the task force was essentially to be an outlet for communication, right? We're getting all this, it's not working. They're trying to call the telecommunication companies, no answers. So the supervisor's office was taking all these escalations, and we were working through that. Fast forward, I mean, we filed a complaint at the Public Service Commission, and we successfully got them fined by $72 million. I mean, we and, the towns around us. Now, this was, a strategy where we were going to use a regulatory, try to have a regulatory component in this. We also worked with our county and towns around us, and essentially we were able to, bring them to the table. And so they've been compelled right now to improve their service. And we're in the process of, going through those orders and kind of work through with them. But fast forward in that process, this comes to the ask. We said that we need a vision, a telecommunications vision for the town. And this is like a 3-prong, event. I mean, you have wireless services, you have, voice services, and you have internet services. And so we said, look, let's put something together and try to come up with a strategy. One of those things was to retain a company called Cityscape to do a wireless infrastructure survey. And we did that with the northern towns. It was funded by Westchester County. So North Salem, Yorktown, Somers, Mount Kisco, Lewisboro, all are participating in this study. It's been going on for the last three months or so. At the September 9th board meeting, they gave us a presentation, which is, let me just break this into three parts. I mean, they're doing a gap analysis. They're looking around the entire, region and trying to understand the placement of all this technology, the cell towers, and trying to understand what the service issues are. They're also taking this and they're saying, look, as we move forward in time, we're going to go from 3G, 4G, 5G, and that's going to have implications to this development of this. This is why I think it's important for this board, because there are going to be, land use issues. There are going to be regulatory issues that are going to come out of this. And there's going to be maybe laws that we're going to write to sort of get in front of this process. So there's this is the ask. There's a telecommunications survey that's out there that we want to take. It's on the board. It's on the website. We want the residents in the town to take this. Is about a 5-minute survey. We have about 400 respondents right now, so that's like a 5% answer rate. It takes about 5 minutes. Everybody on the board should do this. Everybody out in the audience should do this. Everybody at home should do this. It's going to ask you questions about, where you work, where you live, what's your wireless experience. Okay. It's going to ask you things about aesthetics, like, what would you prefer? Talking about macro towers, base stations, and small facilities. Because small facilities is where this is going to head once you get into 5G, right? 5G, yeah. The larger stations aren't going to go away, but there's going to be a larger population of this. And we need to have ordinances to decide how we're going to get them placed and what type of ones that we like. But part of this is getting the community to come in and weigh in. And then there's also the placement of this. Are we going to do it on private property? Can we do it on base stations, like on top of towers that are in place? Or can we employ public property where it may be? And you all know that when it comes to put up in a tower like this, it becomes a little bit of a challenge, right? You have local neighbors, people don't like this. And so we're trying to find a balance of where the gaps are and how we might resolve them as we move forward into the future. So that's the ask. Take the test. The outcome of this is going to be a regulatory review. We're going to do some draft ordinances, which I'm sure you guys are going to be involved with. And then there's going to be a wireless master plan. This is all going to come out, as a plan for us and the town and for the region. So it's not going to just be Somers. It's going to be a wide, plan. So that's it. I'll ask for your participation. If you really are interested and want to find out some more information about this, Telecommunications Task Force out on the website. There are all the things that we've done, for the last year in this. There's some presentations. On September 9th, we had Cityscape come up here. They gave us they showed us their gap analysis for Somers. You can zoom through that if you like real quickly, but that information's out there. So here's the third time. The final ask is take the survey. It's on the website. It takes 5 minutes. The town, the region, we would appreciate that very much if you would do so. So that's it. You guys have any questions or?
These additional ones, would they be the same size as the existing towers? Or who knows?
Who knows? I mean, in a sense, we're looking at where the towers are. They're taking a look at the topography, the foliage, the whole thing in terms of, and where the gaps might be. This survey is going to ask you, what do you think? I mean, we went through this with Chris and with Jack. We know that when you're on 35, you're going to run into a gap. We know at certain areas, so we're just trying to codify this. Additionally, if you don't have to be a resident of this town to take the survey, if you work in this town, we urge you to take the survey as well. So, because, your communication situation is important to us. It could be all of the above. We know that it's going to be smaller towers as you go forward, because as you move from 3G to 4G to 5G, the footprint gets smaller. So you have to have towers closer together, and they may not be as large. So you would imagine they would start to appear on the main thoroughfares, right? Where you're going to have maximum wireless communication, where you're going to have the fastest type of technology there, driving cars and things of that nature. And those things will evolve over the next few years. Now, you might think of it, you don't want 3 or 4 providers coming over here and putting up a pole all over the place, right? Each one putting up their own pole. The idea is to come up with an ordinance maybe that might say, look, we want a co-location, right? We want it to look like this, okay? Is it going to look like maybe something aesthetically appealing like a light pole store? Do you want the equipment to stand outside next to the pole, or do you want it to be in the pole, And those are the decisions that we're going to have to make. But once we get a sense of this, we're going to write these ordinances. So when they come to you guys at some point in the future, we're prepared with at least this is what our expectations are.
Here are the standards.
Yeah, as opposed to trying to make it up as we're going along. So. All right. Sure.
If I can make a comment for the chairman, John, I think this is a good opportunity for us. I know we had discussed in past meetings. There's some current ordinances, town code that requires multiple presentations in front of the task force, in front of the planning board at different times for renewals on cell towers. And I know that with the previous planner, we were looking to streamline some of that legislation. If the town is going to be visiting this, I think this is a good time and a good opportunity to encompass that change while the regulations are being drafted.
So over the next few months, I think get those bullet points, ideas on the table, and I think
that's kind of been a pet peeve of ours for a while, that it just seems silly to make them go through it. I'm not talking about inspections. We're just talking about, on and on and on.
Yes. The challenge is that these things are sometimes regulated by the Public Service Commission of New York State and others by the Federal Communications, FCC. And that creates some, difficulties even in trying to get things done. Your cable television service is the Public Service Commission, but over those same wires, you're getting internet, right? Internet is FCC related.
Right.
So now it's like, well, I got to say the Public Service Commission during this whole process has done a great job. They've even tried to challenge the FCC in some of the things that we're doing, because we were trying to extend our reach. We want them to essentially, we want service level agreements, not only for cable TV, but also for internet service. And so they tried to challenge some of the FCC along those lines. I don't think it was successful, but look, they tried.
Yeah.
And, that's it. The other thing is that this becomes a safety issue. When we have a storm and the communications go down, well, so does the cell service comes down. One of the pet peeves of all of us here is power, right? Why aren't those macro towers have adequate power to sustain themselves for some period of time? That becomes an FCC type of an issue. I've spoken to some of the attorneys that do some of this work here. They may have even, been before us. It's a push-pull. We want to invite these providers to come in here and do work, but we don't want to make it too hard for them to get the work done, because this is not the perfect spot for them. They're going to go to dense areas first, then come to the less populated areas, because the business model just say this is not as affluent or profitable for them. So again, we're trying to strike this balance, but we're trying to get ahead of the curve, and these are the types of issues that we're working through. Okay.
I know in jest you said take the test, and I just want to assure everybody who's watching or listening that there are no grades, there are no wrong answers. This is an effort to get feedback from everybody. You do not, I've done the test, you do not, I did the survey. You do not need to have technical expertise. You're presented with questions, you're given context, you've got visual choices that you can make. It's informational as much as it is soliciting opinions from everybody. So where can everybody find the link to this?
So they can find it on the website. You know, you go to the Somers website. Can you get a? Can you get it?
Somersny.com, that.
That's
website?
right, somersny.com.
And is there a deadline by which you want this completed?
Well, it's already underway, but the survey, and it is a survey, not a test. It's going to be open till the 23rd. Is it Monday, the 23rd or 25th? So October, all next week and Monday, 25th. It will be open till Monday, the 25th. Okay. So you take the survey, you hit on the survey, and you'll come up to something that looks like this, is which a wireless wireless plan infrastructure survey. And you just click the boxes. It's going to ask you for your address. That's important because it's going to tie us to the answers and the gaps and the feedback that we're going to get from the local areas where these where these surveys are filled out. Okay. Jack, Chris, anything?
Well, maybe it's important for everybody to understand that they can be tiny like a light pole, like a street light.
Yeah.
And still be an effective means of boosting the wireless service. And we're seeing a lot of very slim, sleek steel poles going up along the highways around us, 684, 84, most of the major highways in the state. Those are telecommunications towers in a very, very slim design, typically a single pole, and maybe a little device up at the top that looks like it could be a camera or a widget of some kind, and a solar panel typically toward the base of the pole, which is its primary power source. And that's it.
Yes.
So they're very clean looking. They're not obtrusive. I wondered for months driving along the highways what the heck they were doing, but it begins to make sense. And at some point, perhaps we're going to see those on the streets of Somers. Would be good to have sidewalks with the light poles, but that's another whole story.
Yes. It's not a simple undertaking because all these wireless facilities are connected by fiber optic infrastructure. So if they were to put things along, you put them every whatever half mile or so, they're going to have to put some, connectivity to them. I mean, putting them on poles could be an answer. So that's it. But we're not there yet, but we will be there sooner than we expect. So the idea is to get ourselves organized and get this thing. Get this thing laid out. The other thing we're doing with the task force is trying to advocate for alternative service providers. And, we're very sensitive about rates, but we're not in that type of business, right? So we're just using the bully pulpit of the supervisor's office and the other communities around us to just, go after these telecommunications providers and use any leverage that we have. We've used some leverage up in Heritage Hills with the franchise agreement. We successfully negotiated that with the Heritage Hills board. Out of that, I think we got actually Comcast to pay for the administrative equipment that are in the 3 to 5 administrative sites that you have up there. So we brought them to the table to do something. We also got them to commit to some service level agreements, but those are always something that you have to measure. Contact points. Who are they going to do? Who are they going to call? The trucks that come in there, they should be properly marked. They should have proper ID. So you don't have strange trucks just driving in there. But, they're going to third-party providers, and that doesn't always happen as well as we like. But those are the things that are on the table. In the next few months, the franchise agreement for Altice will come up, and, we'll go through the same arrangement with them. So. Again, it's just, trying to leverage anything you have to bring them to the table to get them to, meet your local needs. I got to say, the community is frustrated. I mean, it's aggravated. I mean, how aggravating are you, right? When you can't get a service provider and then you're on a call for 30 minutes. They can't interpret what the trouble is, right? They don't know whether it's customer premise. They don't know if it's a wire. They don't know if it's, a central office situation. And so these are the things that we very clear with the Public Service Commission up at New York State that these are the areas that they have to improve. And so, they have been improving. They have made changes. They are reorganizing. They are bringing more people to bear. I fear to say, I don't know how people, I think the service level's gotten somewhat better, but, I think, there's a follow-up and audit process that we have to kind of work through. Altice will be before the board in November, and they're going to talk to us about those types of issues. So, that's it. All right.
Dave or Steve, any comments? No?
I took the survey, just so you know.
Thank you. All right.
Same.
Everybody have a good evening.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Joe, do we need a motion?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. We're going to, I'm going to make a motion that we go into executive session.
Where are we going?
We're going to go into the map room. I think that's what it's called.
Okay.
Yep. So I need a second.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you. Next on our agenda is time extension for the Granite Point. This is their 17th approval. They're asking for their 17th approval. It's a 90-day time extension for the regrant of subdivision, final subdivision approval, wetland, steep slopes, tree preservation, stormwater management, and erosion sediment control permits as per resolution 2017-10. And they're asking for October 24, 2021, up to and including January 22nd, 2022, as per town law section 276-7C and town code section 50-13M. Any board member comments or anything?
Could I ask a question?
Sure.
Does any, I'm unfamiliar with the details of this. Is there does anybody on the board know why this is all these?
Because the state.
No, it's basically they're waiting for the cleanup for the
And
lead.
still-
And actually, the state has started doing some work.
Oh, okay, because I thought they were
Bureaucratic
doing that.
inaction,
What?
bureaucratic inaction.
Yes.
Okay,
And some of us think it's on purpose.
okay.
I concur with both statements. Make a motion that we approve this resolution.
Second,
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm sorry, I forgot about you. Apologize. Next is a public hearing for the Steinberg Wetland and Watercourse Protection Permit for the property located at 3 Tall Trees Court. Evening.
Good evening, everybody. I'm William Besharat, representing the engineer Roy Frederickson on this project. We've been here in front of the board a couple of meetings already. I think we finally ironed out the items with the comments. There are on the comments letter from the engineer, there are a couple of items I would like to discuss with the board. Oh, and I just explained to the board. The majority of the comments from the last letter has been addressed, but a couple of them, such as item number 1, section 8. This was not on the original comments, and we will be taking care of it. It's not a problem. Item number 3, there are a couple of things in here. The deep hole test will be taken care of, as was suggested during the construction. When the machine is there, there's no reason for, it was done before to do disturbance, whatever, and then come back again and do it. So that has been done that way. And item B and C, the design element and the, both of them with the practices will be addressed, will be taken care of it also on the final. Those items do not affect the public hearing or the final approval, the actually minor item. Item number H, the rim and the rim elevation will have that added to it. It's not a problem. The gutters and leaders is the issue I want to discuss. The existing gutters and leaders are already connected to a infiltration system, and that's not going to be altered or changed or added or reduced, what have you. The survey, we will supply you with a copy of the survey.
Yes, please.
Yeah, just a couple of points on that. We're glad that the roof leaders are attached to an infiltration basin. We just want to know, or sorry, infiltrators. We just want to know where they are and have them shown on the
We will
plan.
look at them, yes.
With the area of the impervious area leading to the proposed rain garden exceeding 1,000 square feet, that's where we would ask that the applicant try to incorporate bioretention practices per the stormwater design manual for the state.
Okay.
You're just a little bit over that threshold. I know it seems minor and trivial, but that's the threshold. And the word in the manual is should, not shall. And so we would ask the applicant to review the potential for incorporation of those or make the case to the board why they can't be incorporated if that's the case. One of those criteria is separation to groundwater of 2 feet.
Yes.
And just a review of the soil survey in this area shows the potential for groundwater right about that 2 feet. So
Type of soil.
that's just our concern and advice to the applicant to make sure that they're comfortable with that risk during construction, once you're doing a lot of work, if that is in fact an issue.
All right.
And with the area of disturbance overall being more than 5,000 square feet, there is a need for coverage under the Speedies general permit for stormwater practices. And so a full stormwater pollution prevention plan
Yes,
is required for that.
we are aware of that.
Dave, do you have anything? No, board member comments? So you feel comfortable that we'll open a public hearing? Board, you all right?
Sure.
Yes.
Make a motion, we open a public hearing.
Second.
All in favor, aye? Is there anyone here from the public who'd like to speak? And based on your suggestion, we'll keep the public hearing open until next meeting. You feel comfortable about asking staff to prepare a resolution if these other items are taken care of?
Yeah, I'm comfortable with a draft resolution being prepared and obviously not voted on until all the technical comments are addressed.
Okay, okay,
For the record, no text messages regarding this
Oh,
or
I'm sorry.
anything that's been
Thank you.
discussed tonight.
thank you.
Thank you.
See you in November.
Thank you very much. Have a
Thank
good
you.
Evening.
Next, on our agenda is the New York State SMSA Limited Partnership doing business as Verizon Wireless. It is an application for a special and permit renewal for a wireless communications facility located at 121 Route 100. Evening.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. My name is Michael Sheridan. I'm an attorney with Snyder and Snyder LLP, the attorneys for New York SMSA Limited Partnership, DBA Verizon Wireless. Verizon is just here in connection with replacing some of its equipment at its existing facility. It is an eligible facilities request under federal law as it is not a substantial change. And we would request that the board, since it is just a minor work, that you would waive the public hearing and authorize the approval so that we can go back to the planning board, go back to the building department and get a building permit to do the work.
I think Steve has a couple of comments.
Yep. So we just wanted to make sure that the structural engineer incorporates the required wording of the code, that they've done their own inspection. The structural engineer's letter seemed to imply that they were relying on another engineer's report to make their determination. And the town code does have some specific language around conducting an inspection, which that report provided to us did not include. I'm sure that's a minor item that could be addressed. I think there was also looking for just documentation from a radio communication facilities engineer per the code that these upgrades won't have any negative impact. I don't expect that they will, but we just need that certification for the code.
Certainly. And if you can make those conditions, we will have those to the building inspector when we apply for the, we can submit those as part of the amended building permit application.
I think Dave has some comments. Did you?
No, other than if Steve is comfortable with the suggestions made by Mr. Sheridan, we could prepare a resolution
Okay.
with those
And
items subject to.
With those conditions.
with those conditions,
Yeah.
everybody feel comfortable waiving the public hearing?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that should almost be an automatic, but that's for Joe to decide.
Well, it can be essentially an automatic, but you do have to say.
I know. I make a motion that we waive the public hearing And also second part, direct staff to prepare a resolution for the next meeting contingent on the additional materials being submitted.
I
You-
second the motion.
You know what Steve was talking about, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
it's a condition of the approval that we submitted in connection with the building permit.
yes.
Right.
And also the documentation from the communications facility engineer.
Yes, the two items.
Okay,
Yes.
I'm sorry, did somebody second?
I did.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And once again, no text messages regarding this discussion, or I would have interrupted you.
Thank you.
You think I'd get it after 2 or 3 times? Sorry.
Okay.
Chris? You and I?
Sure.
Okay. Next is Somers National Golf Course has an application for site plan modifications at 1000 West Hill Drive. For the record, it's for steep slopes, tree preservation, stormwater management, and erosion control permits for the renovation of an existing cart storage building into a cigar bar, installation of 4 golf simulators, and the creation of an 18-hole mini golf course with parking. And for the record,
It'll come
the
up
property is
there.
located in a designated residential development overlay district.
Good evening. My name is Bart Lansky, 28 Ridgeway, Purdy's, New York, 10578. I represent applicant Heritage Hills Holding LLC, Somers Point GC Corp., which are doing business as Somers National Golf Club. We have with me Quentin Liu, who is a beneficial owner of those 2 entities. We also have Rich Williams from Insight, who's prepared most of the application and is ready to explain it. Most of the board, I believe, is familiar with the country club at Heritage. I know we have a couple of members who live up there. I myself lived up there for a period of time. It's 140 acres. The country club itself, they have about 18,000 square foot in buildings. This application is to add approximately 2,000 square feet to the maintenance cart barn, which is adjacent to the main restaurant, and provide space for golf simulators and a cigar bar to augment the facilities which are there at the main golf course. This is at the location of a previous site plan approval from 2017. And in just a light comparison, this application is considerably smaller in terms of square footage and has less tree removal, less soil disturbance, less steep slopes, and less traffic. And the use is directed to Heritage Hills residents much more so than tennis courts and a pool, which was to serve people outside of Heritage. So I want to leave Mr. Williams some space and then be available for questions.
I have a question with regard to what you just said. If I'm mistaken, I'll be corrected, but I don't think that the project in 2017 was actually approved. It was something that was on the books from 1974, and it was in the process of being approved when it basically fell apart. We never approved the,
May I say that I read the resolution this evening. I went back and looked at it. And for me to make that statement, I actually reviewed the square footages within the resolution.
For the record, we did approve it.
We
This
did
board did approve the pool and the tennis courts.
And
Okay,
it was, and I went to the town planner at one point in time and renewed that application, but I believe it is now expired. But by comparison, I just wanted to say that this board had looked at this facility and some of these exact attributes at a previous time. And I'll leave Rich to that.
So good evening, Rich Williams in Site Engineering. And what I'll do is I'll walk you through the site plan first. We presented conceptually to this board on September 8th. We've made some adjustments to the site plan based on some of the feedback we have. And by the time I'm done, I'm going to walk you through some additional changes to the site plan that we are going to be making with our next submission. But just to start with what we submitted. Again, to orient everybody on the plan, we have West Hill Drive South on the bottom of the page, West Hill Drive North. Right here, just off the page, is the intersection of West Hill Drive that comes up the hill. And then at that intersection, it splits into West Hill Drive South and West Hill Drive North. This is the existing clubhouse in light brown. In light brown right here, you have the existing cart barn, and that is proposed to be renovated in order to construct 4 golf simulators, as well as a cigar bar. In association with the cigar bar and golf simulators, we're going to be constructing a terrace on the north side of the existing cart barn and a 1,946 square foot addition on the south side in order to put the simulators in. The other part of this application is to construct a miniature golf course that's located in the same location that we previously presented in the southwest corner of the property. However, if you remember last time we were before you, we had the parking lot shown here. There was a concern raised about additional traffic coming to this intersection. So we relocated the parking lot farther to the north. That also allowed us to address one of Ms. Gannon's comments, which was to start using some of the more disturbed areas of the site. As you can tell by the aerial, there's existing stockpile areas underneath the parking lot, as well as adjacent to the parking lot here and here. We were also asked to provide traffic numbers. We did so in our cover letter. The first thing I want to point out is how all these numbers come together. I'm going to give you a bunch of traffic numbers in use at the site and how the site was previously used. The first thing I want to recognize, because I think it's appropriate to this conversation, is this was once a 27-hole golf course. 9 of those holes were sold to Heritage Hills. So we're now operating as an 18-hole golf course. When you look at the Institute of Transportation Engineers trip generation manual, they associate 41 peak hour trips for the 9 holes of the golf course. Okay. So right before we even come in with this application, the traffic is already lower by 41 peak hour trips, at least according to ITE. The next part of the story is the previous application, which was approved, and a negative declaration was also approved. That application for the pool tennis complex contemplated 80 peak hour trips. Okay. And in that application, one of the things you relied upon was the DEC's guidance, which is in the EAF workbook, which says if you generate less than 100 peak hour trips, you're generally not a potentially significant adverse impact with respect to seeker. We then looked at our miniature golf course. Based on Quinton's projections, we're estimating 224 golfers on a day. Some days are going to be less, some days are going to be more. It's our hope that a lot of those users are actual Heritage Hills residents. But again, we can't guarantee that, but that is a use that makes this application different from the last one. As a pool tennis complex, the previous application didn't envision drawing a lot of Heritage Hills residents. With the miniature golf course, we're hoping that it's going to be grandparents and their grandchildren or younger families that seem to be moving into Heritage Hills more and more. 224 golfers. Typically, when you go as a family, you're either going as a family of 4, let's say a family of 2. We looked at it both ways. In the peak hour, Quinton's projections have the course at about 32 golfers. Looking at that, you're at 8 to 16 peak hour trips. So again, when you start to pile all the numbers together, the 9 holes would generate about 40. And again, that's no longer in use. The previous application contemplated 80 peak hour trips, and our applications between 8 and 16. So, we do respect traffic. We understand it's a very sensitive issue in Heritage Hills. We are in Heritage Hills and we want to be a good neighbor, but we do believe this is a low intensity use with respect to traffic. The next thing that I'd like to talk about is just tree removal. And I'd like to show you with what we're going to be doing when we come back. Just gonna switch boards. So we've had the miniature golf course designer take a look at his design. This was one of Mr. Smith's comments, as well as I think Mr. Mattis and Mr. Prince, piggybacking on what Ms. Gannon said, is can you use some of the more disturbed areas instead of taking down additional trees? So we asked the miniature golf course designers to see if they can move to an L-shaped configuration to make use of this area of the property here. Our concern was 1, ADA accessibility, and 2, cost. We've begun the vetting process on that, and we believe we can make it work. So what we're proposing to do is come back with a reconfigured miniature golf course outlined by this red outline here. The reason why we're not moving farther north is there's an existing sewer line here that we do not want to construct improvements over. So we've gone as far north as we could. And the reason why we're not moving farther to the west is there's more steep slopes in this area we're trying to stay out of. So this plan does work within the limits of grading that we've provided to the board in our current submission, albeit you can see this entire area here can now remain forested. So we're excited to be able to present that change, although we don't have the details figured out yet. But, we want the board to know, we're listening to your comments. We appreciate the feedback, and as Bart said, we believe this to be less intense use than previously approved. We believe it's going to help keep the golf course going. And we hope you see it the same way. Tonight, what we're hoping is if you want to schedule a site walk, you do so. And then if you are willing to take the first step in seeker and declare your intent to be lead agency, I think we believe this is an unlisted action, correct?
Thank you. Let's hear from Steve and Dave and then board members, if it's okay?
Excuse me, I have a question for council. But can I ask it off to the side?
Well, if you think you need to do that.
I do.
Maybe we should go into executive session.
Could we do that?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
I apologize.
That's okay.
I have a
I'll make a motion. We go into executive session. Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Be right back.
So Woodard and Curran issued a review memo based on the information submitted. Obviously, the details of the project are in flux, and we trust that the applicant will address the spirit of our comments and adjust those as needed based on the revised application. I don't think that there was any technical comments worth more discussion. We're looking for more information really on the proposed water demand, rainwater harvesting system, making sure that maintenance and inspection requirements for those were documented in the final proposal. Looking for some additional data and calculations on some of the engineering details, just to confirm the design and the compliance with the code.
Dave?
Just had some fairly straightforward initial comments on the site plan. I'd like to take a closer look at some of the traffic numbers that you had referenced earlier. I think that your reference to seeker is probably correct with respect to the type of impact, but I think it's important to take a fresh look based on existing conditions. So we'll do that.
Board member comments, please.
I have a question. Rich, you mentioned you're using the former golf cart barn you're converting it.
For the golf simulators and the cigar bar.
I see. But the golf carts still exist. What are you doing with those?
The golf carts are not actually stored in the cart barn. So
They never were?
because they are gasoline powered, they cannot be stored indoors, and they have not been and won't be. What is known as the cart barn, underneath in the basement, there's a maintenance area. And then the upper floors are really just storage. And the intent is to keep it that way. Well, with the exception of the renovation for the cigar bar, the upper floor will be renovated, so it's more usable space and not just storage. One thing I didn't mention, forgive me, there was a comment last time had to do with stormwater and the downhill condo unit. What became obvious as we were looking at this is there is an existing collection system that was constructed throughout this partially developed area. It doesn't appear to be collecting a lot of water, so most of the runoff that doesn't get into the ground comes down to the west and then ultimately intersects the road that leads to the condo units. There is one catch basin at the entrance to the first condo where it looks like a lot of water sheet flows towards, and with the amount of water coming down the hill may occasionally inundate it because it looks like it just sits in the low point. One of the things that we're going to do is we are going to pick off a lot of this water on this hillside, everything from our parking lot, everything from the new miniature golf course is going to get captured, and we're going to put it in a rainwater harvesting system. Some of the comments that you heard Steve allude to is we need to get into the details on how much water, what the demand for the golf course is. But our plan now is to collect the water that we're required to treat the stormwater volumes and then pump it to the irrigation ponds on the golf course. We need a ton of water for the golf course. Right now, we have several large irrigation ponds. Quentin's team is telling me they're often fighting to, keep them full, and they can always use more water. So as opposed to letting that water continue to go down and run down the road to the low point, we're going to essentially pick it off and take it away.
Rick, have you inquired with the building department whether the miniature golf course and/or the building that you're planning to build there are acceptable to the building department as part of the DRD?
We've looked into the zoning. We believe they are because they're accessory uses to the golf course.
I think you should get a decision from the building department before you go too far, because that could be a problem.
Okay. We did look at zoning in some of our initial meetings with the town. And or do you have any issues with that? Or you?
Well, we're comfortable that it's within the DRD. I don't have the language in front of me, but any recreation is part of the DRD. And just as the previously approved tennis courts and pools were part of the DRD, so is a miniature golf course as accessory to the golf course and golf simulators. That's all recreation, and it's all designed to be used by the people who live in Heritage, and they're welcome to have people from outside of Heritage as well.
Yeah, but you're building an additional building, okay, which may be used for golf, but it's additional building. And I'll tell you that the Heritage Hills, who purchased the 9-hole golf course, had to go to the town builder to find out what was allowed on the piece of property. It is not specifically clear that a new building is done. I'm just trying to say that I think you should get a ruling, because you don't want to go down this road and then find out that your interpretation of the zoning code is different from the building department. That's all. Just trying to save you some work.
There's 18,000 square feet of existing building. One of them is being augmented by 2,000 square feet. It's not a new building. It's just a small addition to an existing for golf simulators and things related to the restaurant. We believe we're within.
Well, it would still need a permit from the building department.
Yeah, I mean, it just sounds like that's a risk they're willing to take, right? If the building department denies the permit because it's not conforming with the DRD, then they'll have to adapt and deal with that. And Bruce, I think you were good in just giving them the tip off on that. But if they want to move ahead, I don't see why they would have to. They have to file for a permit anyway.
Your point's well taken, and we'll talk it over.
Rick, my question is, you say you're going to take the water off that edge of the property and use it for irrigation by running it to the pond, the existing retention pond, which I believe is some 2,000 feet, maybe a little more than that, away from the site and on the other side of West Hill Drive.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a plan as yet for how you're going to pump it from A to B?
We are looking at a couple of different options. There's the irrigation pond you refer to. There's also another irrigation pond by the driving range across from West Hill Drive. That's what we're working through with the club now, which is why we haven't provided all the details. There might be, we're looking for spots uphill on the collection system that might feed that irrigation pond, or open channel conveyance that might get the water down there where we don't have to pipe it the whole way. There may be an opportunity to tie into the irrigation system on the uphill side and supplement the system into the system as opposed to going to the pond. We're looking at all alternatives. We don't have that figured out at the moment.
Okay, thank you.
Other board member comments? I know, Steve, you said we could discuss whether the board is comfortable enough to schedule a public hearing. My thought is with this new presentation, I don't think so. I think we need just more information, don't you? And especially for the public. Yeah.
Don't we-
Yes, yes.
Don't we also need to hear from the DEC and the DEP?
No,
With,
well, not for a public.
Not for a public hearing.
not for a public hearing?
No.
No.
Okay, so I think we'll hold off on scheduling a public hearing.
Yep. Do you want, how about declaring your intent to be lead agency and starting the
Yeah,
secret process?
I think that's fine. Make a motion, we declare ourselves to be lead agency. Is this going to be a type 2?
No.
No.
Unlisted action.
Okay. Make a motion, we just declare ourselves lead agency.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Does the board want to do a site walk? Are we familiar enough with the property?
Well, I'm just me. If you can stake out whatever you want to do with this, with the new mini golf, I think that's kind of important.
Yes.
I'm assuming you're a little ways away from,
We could stake out the red box, which is generally going to
Okay.
be the area where it'll be.
Okay.
I think you're going to have some certainty that that's the direction you're going in.
We're going to do it.
okay,
I think it
we
shows
need
good
a
faith on our
sidewalk.
part.
okay. Who's ready when?
Saturday,
Saturday?
Saturday.
what
Early,
date?
This Saturday or
I can't,
23rd is better.
This
for me.
Saturday's,
not this
Busy.
weekend.
next Saturday.
The following Saturday?
I could do the 23rd in the morning.
Okay. Well, we could actually, I'm sure you can accommodate everybody with 2. I don't mean to put the pressure on you.
Saturday, the 23rd?
Yeah, 23rd?
Well,
There's some that can't?
Can everybody make it?
Yeah.
On what
I
day?
can.
23rd. Yes, Chris?
I can.
Yeah, I'm just verifying one other calendar. Hang on.
Can you make this
Yeah, I'm
Saturday?
good. I'm good the 23rd.
This Saturday.
That's the 23rd is the following Saturday.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
it.
or the 16th for me. That's this Saturday. Either
Okay.
one.
But I can walk in between,
Okay.
if that's acceptable.
Yeah, I think as long as you let the golf course know and give Quentin an opportunity to walk you through the
So
project.
when are we?
And you're going to need a little time to put the stakes out, obviously, too.
Yes.
All right, so let's set it then. Is the majority the 23rd?
Yes.
Yes,
What
what
time?
time?
And where do we meet?
The old Pinnacle Restaurant?
Sure.
At the Old Pinnacle, 9 AM?
What?
9 o'clock, Chris?
Yeah, that works. I just don't know where the old Pinnacle
It's
restaurant
it's
is.
the new, it's the Pinnacle.
All right, before my time. Got it. Thank you.
mean old in the sense of venerable.
Yes, yes,
Oh,
there you
I got you. Not old as in former. All right.
go. No, seasoned.
Seasoned.
And then if some of us want to, before we'll be in touch with you or with Quentin. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Can I
All right.
ask a question?
No.
No.
Yeah, given my track record. The last time we did the walk
Yes.
for the prior application, it was dark and stormy Saturday morning. It was raining. And being in the middle of a residential community, people spontaneously came and joined us.
Yes, they
and followed
did.
along.
Yes.
So if there, so I just feel the need to put it out there. This is a site walk. What are the parameters of the site walk if there were people from the community who wanted to walk along? What is the official stance?
They're politely told that it's a planning board meeting site walk.
No,
And
no, we're
not-
not. We have to be careful about meeting. That's a problem.
It's not a meeting.
Okay, it's a
We
planning
can't-
board site walk, but it's not
Right.
open to the public. Oh, Joe, I
Joe.
yield to you,
If they join us, we can't interact with them.
Right.
That's it. We
but
don't,
they can join us?
Well, it's a
difficult.
private property.
I'm going to
Right.
jump in
Yeah.
and maybe help this out a little bit.
Legally, it's a
Based-
problem if we're an entire
But
board.
Quinn-
It is
Quinn,
private
Quinn
property.
needs to think about it and maybe talk to a few folks because where we're going to be walking is in and around maintenance areas and some places where, God forbid somebody got hurt, there could be liability. So just Quinn's going to think about it and check maybe with some people he needs to make sure it's okay to have the public.
Right. I'm not extending an invitation. What I'm doing is hearkening back to the reality of what
Yes.
happened
Mhm.
so that everybody can prepare their minds for both residents who may be watching this you, the applicant, ourselves, and everybody know what can and can't happen. I'm not the arbiter and decider of it. I just would like some clarity for everybody's sake, for safety's sake, and for doing things the right way sake.
Everyone needs to have sturdy shoes. That's our first requirement.
Yeah. No worries.
It's probably safer if the public doesn't. I mean, they will have an opportunity in the public hearing, and we understand that that may have an impact on what the board can and can't talk about.
That's typically an accommodation, and I can provide the board with with a memo on this, because it is another one of those good general topics to have some information on. So,
But it is private property, right?
yeah, no,
Yeah.
I mean, that's the first
Yeah.
thing we got to do.
Okay.
But I'll give you some
All right.
information.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
See you on the 23rd.
Do you need to, did we take a motion on intent to be lead agency? Do we need
Yes.
to?
Passed.
Okay. Making sure.
And there's still no comments on the text messages.
Well, it's not a public hearing.
No, but I'm just saying. nobody's saying-
Okay, okay. Last, but we haven't seen you in so long, but not least. It's an informal presentation from the Tractor Supply Company, which is a potential development on 23 Clayton Boulevard.
Mr. Chairman, board members, thank you for seeing us, especially on short notice. I do appreciate it. My name is Mark Diodato, and I'm the managing member of MAC 5 Development. We're from West Hartford, Connecticut. I have built many Tractor Supply stores throughout New York and Connecticut, Vermont, all of New England other than Maine. So I'm very comfortable with the construction and building the building. We've been through many town halls, and fortunately, Tractor Supply has been very well received throughout since 2003. To that end, I just wanted to introduce myself so you know that who I was, and I'm the face of this. I have Rich Williams is going to be our lead engineer, and Jim Cassidy from Halsey, Pearson and Cassidy in Rocky Hill, Connecticut is going to assist Rich. So with that, I'll turn it over to my professionals.
Good evening. Rich Williams, Insight. I'm going to turn it over to Jim, who's done some of our initial site plan layouts. But this is the last lot of the Somers Realty Plan Hamlet. It's a project that's traveled with this board for quite some time. We have Linda Whitehead in the background of Somers Realty. She's here on their behalf this evening. As you know, starting in 2007, we started with the Muse 1, and we also developed the Muse at Baldwin Place Phase 2. Then came Avalon Bay. We recently have completed Artis, and last month they got their CO. So they are opening and operating. And this is really the last piece in the Plan Hamlet. It's what was known as Lot 4, the commercial piece up by Stop and Shop. It's the piece where, all those other uses that haven't been built yet, which really lie with the commercial. We've been waiting and trying to find somebody to develop. It's been a challenging market to find a commercial developer to come in and occupy that property. We have gone to the town and talked about alternative uses, but we have generally gotten the direction that the town wants to see a commercial use on that corner. So here we are tonight. We have one. We found one. I will just quickly mention, we had the DEP out. We did a water course delineation. There are no water courses that are going to impact this project. So we can check that checkbox. We just wanted to make sure we could, because as Jim's going to talk to you in a minute, in adjacent to Lot 4, there is a town regulated wetland. And Jim's going to talk to you a little bit about how we're planning on developing in portions of the buffer and what that means. Really, our intent tonight is to come before this board and get your initial feedback on the site layout. We have a long process ahead of us. There's a provision in the PH zone that restricts the size of retail establishments. So we are going to need to talk to the town board, and we have presented before them and are going to be meeting with them to talk about amending the PH zone in order to accommodate this size retail use. That's why I say we have a long road ahead of us. In that, much like a lot of the other amendments, I'm sure there's going to be interactions between the two boards. But getting the feedback that we did when Tractor Supply, you last saw Matt Darling of McAfee, getting the feedback we did when he last presented, we've adjusted the site plans to respond to those comments. And as a result of that, it does push some additional development into the buffer. And that's what Jim's now going to explain to you and show you. And that's what we'd like your feedback on.
The camera still good?
Good evening. For the record, my name is Jim Cassidy. I'm a professional engineer and principal with the firm of Halsey Pearson Cassidy, located in Cromwell, Connecticut. I'm here tonight with Mark Didavo of Mac 5 Development and also Rich Williams from Insight. It was mentioned Rich Williams would be the lead engineer on this project. I'm there to assist because basically for Mac 5, I've done about 20 Tractor Supplies over the past 8 years. We've been working on them. So I have a lot of experience with Tractor Supply itself, but I'm sure Rich has a lot more experience coming through this town. So he's going to be the lead engineer on the project. The property that we're looking at this evening is referred to as 23 Clayton Boulevard. I have an aerial photo up here. I don't know if everybody can see it, but the area outlined in red is the subject parcel. It is located on Clayton Boulevard. Clayton Boulevard is to the top. Off to the northeast is the Sumner Shopping Plaza. This is Stop and Shop just off to the northeast also. There is an access drive that comes in off of Route 6 down along the side of the building and actually provides access to the rear of the Stop and Shop and actually circumferences all around the back of the shopping center and then back out to the main road. The property itself, outlined in red, consists of about 4.9 acres. As mentioned, it is zoned PH, Plan Hamlet zone. Off to the northwest, this corner up here is I think it's the Artis Senior Living Facility. I'm sorry, Muse 1 and 2. And then down to the southwest is the Avalon development. And then in the center here, you can see this is what's called the Village Green that abuts us on the southwesterly boundary line. We access the site through a 60-foot access easement along this northeasterly boundary line. If anybody were to go out there and you take a look at the topography of the site itself basically is a plateau. As you go down Clayton Boulevard in a southwesterly direction, the grade drops off. As you enter the site at this northeasterly corner, you're basically level with the intersection of the roadway. By the time you get down to this corner, you're about 16 feet below the grade. So you see that steep embankment going up to the site. Once you get to the top, it's a large level flat area. As was mentioned, there is a wetlands associated or coincidental with the northwesterly or this we'll call it, no, sorry, northeasterly boundary in this area here. What we're looking to do is to develop this with a new retail building for a Tractor Supply company. What will happen is Mac 5 will buy the property. They're the preferred developer for Tractor Supply in this area. They in turn will go for the approvals on the project. And once they receive approvals, they will contract, build the building, own the building, and then eventually enter into a long-term lease with Tractor Supply. Tractor Supply, if no one's familiar with it, it's a retail operation that likes to cater to gentleman farmers, not large farming operations, but people with larger pieces of property that may need some tools and equipment to work on those larger pieces of property. Although it's called Tractor Supply Company, they do not sell tractors, but we do sell such things as implements for tractors, York rakes, brush hogs, Harley rakes. In addition to the Tractor Supply within the store itself, you can buy such products as clothing, Carhartt type work clothing, work boots, and those type of things. They do have a large pet food center. You can also buy equestrian supplies for horses and some cattle feed within the store. And there's also a large section for hardware, nuts, bolts, hoses, things you need to work on equipment that you may have. We do also sell lawn equipment, such as riding lawnmowers, push mowers, log splitters, snow blowers, those type of seasonal items. So the site, what we're here before is to talk about just the general layout of the site. We've gone through, this is actually the 5th version of a site plan, trying to figure out the best way to lay out this site being about bordered on the southwest by a residential community and also off to the northwest here by the elderly housing complex off here. We're trying to be sensitive to that, trying to pull the development back from that and be able to provide some nice buffering between the commercial development and those uses. If you were to look at some of the original versions of the site plan, the intention was basically to have the building up in this corner of the property and then have the parking to the rear. What we find in doing that to gain access, number one, we need to drop the grade substantially. In addition to the property is kind of narrow, so it brings the whole development closer to Clayton Boulevard and also closer to the Village Green. So one of the issues we've been struggling with is the wetlands. There is the wetlands along this easterly boundary line. The town has a 100-foot regulated area from that wetlands. So we're trying to weigh out what was the best approach. One of the ideas we've had is to take the building, flip the building so it's more towards the center of the property, which is shown as the brown rectangle on the plan here. The building itself has a footprint of about 21,800 square feet. By putting it in the center, it allows us to put a smaller parking area out to the front of it, a new site access drive off the access drive that feeds into the back of the Stop and Shop, and then continue down with another small parking lot down the side, and then access back out to the main road out back. So what would happen is this would be the back of the store facing the residents. There would be a pad on the back for loading. There's a mobile loading ramp on it. But we would also have the opportunity in this area to provide some type of screening, such as a screen wall or fence. But the more important part is by doing it in this orientation, now we are gaining about 120-foot wide area that we can implement a very robust landscape buffer. In addition to, because it's a plateau on the top, we can look at actually berming it up to further enhance the buffer. In addition to, on this side, we're looking at taking the building so it's pushed back from the top of the slope. So once again, I have a level plateau between the building and Clayton Boulevard. This once again provides me a significant area where we can put another robust row of landscaping to shield us from the residents across the way. The downside is that it pushes everything to the southeast, closer to the wetlands. So the way we have it configured right now, we are looking to have this parking area in this corner of this yellow pad, which we'll get into in a second, within the 100-foot regulated area. We've worked on a version. I wanted to show you this plan first because it's overlaid on a site photo, a little easier to follow. But this is a later version we worked at. So the light blue line here is the limits of the wetlands. The 100-foot regulated area would be this dark black line here. So what we're trying to do is hold a minimum of at least 50 feet from the wetlands in this area. But again, it provides us more than ample area on this side to do some meaningful landscape buffering in that area. The yellow pad that you see out here, or the yellow area, is an area that we call a FOD. It's a fenced-in outside display area. This is a concrete pad, circumference with the 8-foot-high chain link fence. This is an area where we have product displayed that's typically too big to be in the store. Such products as the implements or tractors that we talked about. A brush hog can weigh up to about 1,000 pounds. So it's not easy to bring in and out of the store, can't fit through the door, can't turn it sideways. In addition to, as I mentioned, we sell equestrian supplies. One of the equestrian supplies we have is corralling for horses. A piece of fencing for a horse corral is typically 20 feet long, 4 feet high, tube steel. Once again, it's just too big to put in the store. So what happens is these larger products are put on the concrete pad. They're displayed out here. If a customer wants to make a purchase, they can go out and they could take a look at it. They need to go back into the store to the checkout, make the purchase. From there, they would go back out to their vehicle. At each end of the FOD, there is a gate. One of the sales representatives would actually open up the gate. They would then be able to drive their vehicle into the pad, be loaded on the FOD, and then the gate on the back's open and they continue on their way. So there's no actual sales going on out there. Yes.
Do any of the materials or products that are stored in the outside area surrounded by chain link adjacent to the wetlands contain chemicals that the natural sequence of the environment, seasons, heat, rain,
No.
snow, etc., would cause runoff that would then go into the wetlands?
No, so anything like fertilizers, pesticides are all stored within the store. No products that would leak any type of pollutants would be stored on that area. I should also know if there's also concern about, we do sell lawnmowers, log splitters. When we sell those products, there's no gas, there's no oil in them. You need to make, like going to Home Depot, you'd make a purchase of a lawnmower. When you make that purchase, you actually get a quart of oil with it and you fill it up when you bring it home. There's no liquids in those vehicles. We do not repair vehicles here. It has to go out to another service. If Tractor Supply doesn't repair vehicles. So everything that's on this pad is environmentally friendly. There's no worry of runoff going off into the wetlands that would be contaminated. So the other thing I'd like to point out is you'll see this green box here. This is a new program that Tractor Supply is doing over the past year. They've also entered a greenhouse to their prototypical building. This is about a 4,000 square foot greenhouse. Seasonal plants are put under it. At this point, it's basically just a greenhouse roof, just cover for plants. But that would be on the pad area. The total pad area with the green and the yellow is about 20,000 square feet in total. In addition to, you see these lighter green areas along the front of the building. This is a concrete sidewalk along the face of the building. This is an area we dedicate, and it's called the seasonal outside display area. As I mentioned, selling lawnmowers and snow blowers and log splitters are seasonal items. Similar to an Agway, those products would be stored out there rather than in the store. But again, they're brand new. There's no liquids in them. All the liquids have to be put in when you actually bring them home. And the final area I have on this plan is this little pink area. Tractor Supply also sells such products as landscape trailers, not big box trailers, but the small black flat landscape trailers that a residential homeowner would buy. This is just a place to display those landscape trailers. So they want these specific areas spelled out on the site plans as we go through the process. That's why I'm bringing them up to show you where each one is. Now, for parking, per your zoning regulations, if we take a look at the building area, I actually need to provide a total of about 110 parking spaces to meet the zoning requirement. On this site plan, as it stands right now, you're looking at a total of 76 parking spaces. So whether you're going to be asking for a variance or a reduction of the number of parking spaces, a typical Tractor Supply that we do has anywhere from about 65 to 75 parking spaces. Tractor Supply is not a high traffic generator. It actually has its own category in the IT manual. So when the traffic study is done, you'll find out that it doesn't generate a lot of traffic. When you have a customer come in, their typical turnaround time is about 15 minutes. And then again, it's a much lower traffic generator than some retail operation. One of the things we've done in other municipalities is we've gotten Tractor Supplies approved. The concern that always comes up is to what happens if Tractor Supply moves out and another retailer comes in. Now we don't have enough parking. What we've done in other towns in New York State is we've land bank spaces. And that's one of the things we may be looking for here. As I mentioned, this pad here is about 20,000 square feet. If Tractor Supply moves out, is a great place to land back parking spaces. It accommodates another 45 parking spaces. So you easily meet and exceed the parking requirements for the overall development. We anticipate deliveries for the site coming through the main access drive down the east side of the building to the rear, and then backing into the loading dock, pulling back out of the loading dock, and then continuing down the main access drive to leave the site. Other things, there's a couple of little things that are going to be in these Tractor Supply. Again, over the past year and everything's going on with this pandemic, Tractor Supply has kind of been reworking their model of the store. The store, you'll see two areas on it. This orange area. This orange area is a new feed center for pet food that they have within the store. We actually just finishing up a Tractor Supply in Litchfield, Connecticut right now. And that was the first one where they introduced the feed center. It actually was an appendage on the side of the building. They've now redone their footprint of the building. So now it's going to be within the building. It's a 4,000 square foot storeroom within the building. And one of the things that can happen with this feed room is if you have a customer that's coming in and wants to buy bulk feed, dog food, again, horse supplies, they'd actually be able to pull in that side yard display. A sales rep would be able to pull the material right out of that feed room, load up their vehicle, and then they'd be able to continue on. So it's trying to be more convenient to the customer. In addition to this, within the store, there's also going to be a pet wash station. So if you have dogs and you want to bring them in, there's going to be an area to do a pet wash also. So that's I would say my Reader's Digest presentation of what we're looking at right now. And we would like to just get some kind of feedback to see if we're kind of headed in the right direction with what we're looking at laying out on this site before we continue down the road and fully develop plans. So I open it up to any questions you may have.
Quick question. At the bottom of that drawing, there is a dark gray area.
So this is an
You can see
existing.
has a cross hatching.
Yeah, so I'll let Rich may be the better one to answer this one. I went out to the site. It is an existing paved road. But it seems to be, it's gated and appears to be abandoned. This area down in here.
That is the future Reynolds Drive. So as part of Avalon, there was another public road that was contemplated as part of the planned hamlet, ultimately intended to access properties to the south of the planned hamlet that are landlocked. That road was constructed to item 4. There was a lot of time spent with this board talking about, at that time, what level to build that road to. So during the Avalon process, it was agreed that it would get constructed. The fill would be brought in, the drainage would be put in, the curbs would be put in, and the item 4 would be installed. And at such time as any future development or that road needed to be completed, the developer at that point could just come in, pave it, readjust the drainage based on the paving, just raise the rims up, and the road would be ready. So this is constructed to item 4 right now with curbing and drainage.
And out of curiosity, there is a public walkway, a trailway, which passes, I would guess, within about 100 feet of that back there.
So
The wetland area.
I'm not sure you're gonna know much. Let me, I can point to it here if you can zoom in enough, but this dark gray line here is the planned hamlet. Okay, this area here is Somers Commons.
Right.
The trailway runs along this outside edge here.
The old railroad.
Yep, which is the North County Trailway. So it's way more than 100 feet.
Way more than
In fact, Reynolds Drive is 900 feet long. It's about 960 feet long. And then you have probably several more 100 feet until you get to the trailway.
Okay.
So this particular property is quite a ways away from that.
Stop and shop.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I have a question. When you went over your list of products that you intend to sell, I recall being in a Tractor Supply in Alabama once. Don't ask me why, but I was, and I recall seeing livestock being sold there. Is that something that you plan on doing at this
So
store?
during the holidays, Easter, they'll occasionally sell chicks and bunnies. It's not continuous through the year. It's a special, more of a seasonal type thing during the holiday season.
And does that require any special permitting or anything like that? I mean, maybe I have no, I'm just curious.
Well, as a 4-H leader, I can answer that question. In the town of Somers, if you're going to have chickens, you have to have 6.
Right.
And no roosters.
No roosters.
No limit on the number of rabbits for obvious reasons.
So I'm not
Oh,
sure
yeah,
about
so-
the special permit, but we'll obviously look into that also.
Yeah, that was, that's kind of where I was going. We do have an ordinance that limits the amount of egg-laying chickens that you can have. I don't know if it's applicable to a retail setting. I don't think we've ever had a store sell stuff like that here before, but that's why I asked the question.
We have a lot of horse owners in the area.
That's why we're here.
Yeah. I've heard.
Yeah, I would imagine that like North Salem and some of the other parts, even
Edgewood.
Somers, we've got some horse farms. So, I mean, I understand that there's a demand here. I just want to make sure everything is going to fall into place.
I have a question.
Sure.
and a comment. You have buffer, we asked for the buffering because of the obvious residential focus of the planned hamlet, and you've taken care of Muse 1 and Muse 2. It isn't clear to me how buffered Avalon lots 3C and 3D are. Only because, and Rich could handle this, on our sidewalk, because it's much higher than they are. I assume they can't see it, but I'm not sure. Do we need a balloon? When we do a sidewalk, would we need a balloon or something to let us know?
When you stand up on the pad here, it'll
Yeah.
be very clear what the elevations look like.
Okay,
I assume when you see, there's a bunch of lots that Avalon purchased from the planned hamlet. They in fact own this property, and this is a better, I'm sorry, this is a better view of actually Reynolds Drive. You can see it right on the aerial. This is what was constructed and as it exists today. And the trailway is really out over here, just to finish that thought. What we can look at is, as we develop this plan, is there the potential to add some additional screening in this little corner here
Mhm.
from these units? And we can take a look at that in the field during a site walk when we get to that point.
sure.
So that's a good comment. As far as these portions of the property, which are also owned by Avalon, again, they're forested. There's no development plans right now. We wouldn't be proposing any screening along this border.
I'm assuming that the town board will be the lead agency because they will, if they go along with this, they'll have to amend the zoning code. So they're going to be the lead agency.
Can you just
We-
give variance?
We have
Yeah,
to,
I mean, not necessarily, but.
But
they
usually
take that.
It's usually that's how it goes. I don't know that that's well that important, but I had another question. I visited your store and I see there's a great deal of enthusiasm, by the way, in the community for it. I have friends who are looking forward to not having to go so far up to Patterson to do their shopping. So that's a good sign for you. But I want to comment so people understand what's going on here. The Chico's is 19,000 square feet. This building is 22,000 square feet. That's 13% larger. That's the building. The open area, in combination with the open area, it's overall 16% larger. So that's quite a large impact. I don't mean that as a negative, but just to present the facts. I visited the tractor store up in Patterson, I believe it was.
we did
And I
the
was
site
in-
plan for that. Hope you liked it.
I was impressed with the type of business that it is. I was interested in a lot of what you were selling and how you do it, since I'm a chicken lady. You have wonderful portable chicken houses, just perfect for a flock of 6. And you didn't have it in the store, but I could have it shipped to the store, so I wouldn't have to pay for shipping. Handy. But it's not a glitzy store. It's very stripped down. Only contains what you're selling. And luckily I went at the end of the week and I could see, you mentioned you deliver once a week, is that correct? And you could see that's how the business works. The store was pretty well emptied out. And I returned earlier the following week and it was filled to the hilt. So it's a very interesting business model and showed itself the way you described it. So I just made that comment for anybody interested.
And you bring up a great point comparing it to DeChico's, just for order of magnitude. There were a number of uses in the plan hamlet that we've worked through and tried to get here. And the original plan hamlet, in addition to what's been developed, if you remember, Avalon actually wasn't developed to the density the plan hamlet originally contemplated. And the plan hamlet also contemplated 30,000 square feet of retail restaurant and 40,000 square feet of office. So there was, yeah, contemplated on site. So while,
Right.
yeah.
Rich, I just wanted to say that it looks like, I really think the layout that you produce is quite good. I think the putting the parking lot on the upper part and also having it so access, it's also near the existing shopping center. And I think people would much rather eventually look at a building than a parking lot. So I think, in my opinion, I think the layout is pretty good. And it's a good way to arrange all those items as far as I could see. Your buffers are well designed. I think you might want to add that buffer that Nancy talked about, just down towards the bottom. But yeah, but otherwise, I think it looks very good.
Question, there's an interesting tension here. We're asking you to provide buffers. At the same time, you're very much in a residential area, frankly, and we want you to be found because we want the business to be successful. And I think some of the activities we might have contemplated at the time that it was developed, we might have thought, yeah, you could have some foot traffic or traffic from whatever residential units you had. I don't know that we'll have a lot of people living at Avalon or in Baldwin 1 or 2 who are going to be purchasing chickens or, or supplies. Maybe the pet food type thing. Yeah, exactly, the kind of things I would get. But so can you speak a bit about managing that tension between successful aesthetic integration into the site and being found?
What I can tell you is we as, or Somers Realty has tried to be found by commercial users for a while. It's something that they've struggled with based on location. We've talked for years about proximity to Route 6, being on Route 6. This isn't necessarily what was talked about during the Plan Hamlet as far as, integrated commercial retail. But it's what the market is producing. And, as long as we've been at the Plan Hamlet, we've been marketing this property, and it's been a challenge. So while this may not integrate, to your point, like we thought it originally would, I think with this type of commercial development, we have to think maybe a little less about direct integration. Of course, we'll have the sidewalk connections, but it's probably more about actually separating it a little bit, from a visual standpoint, making it feel a little buffered with some green space.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
On that side, but I don't know if there's something about signage or
Yeah,
if there's some hook or way that we make sure, and that's on you to a certain extent, but to the extent that it comes back to activity or signage that can take place on that adjacent lot, what things should be contemplated and start to be talked about, whether it's architectural review board, that will enable people to know and not that Tractor Supply is there and not have it be the hidden gem that stays too hidden.
So a couple of things. One of the advantages, number one, with this layout is the way we orientated the building in the parking lot. When you come down the access drive, you're gonna be looking at the front of the building. So we thought that was real important. Another good thing about Tractor Supply is most retailers, they want to be on Main Street. They want that visual to get that driver by traffic. Tractor Supply is a destination retailer. We don't need driver by traffic. If you live out a half hour away and you have to go find some farming supplies and you Google Tractor Supply, it's going to bring you here. We're not looking for bypassers. We're a destination. And when you take a look at a lot of Tractor Supplies, you're going to find they're not in your, I call them A retail locations. They're more like a B location. They're off or, at the fringes of the main retail corridor.
Is that one of the reasons, I'm sorry, is that one of the reasons why you require less parking?
Yeah, again, it's a destination. It's not like a pharmacy where you're going to have a high customer count. I mean, you have someone, again, that's a half hour away and they know. I have the perfect story. I live on a 20-acre parcel out in Burlington, Connecticut. I have a large tractor for maintaining the property. Okay. And I was helping one of my neighbors on a Sunday afternoon with my tractor and blew out a hydraulic hose. I either wait till Monday morning to go to the John Deere dealer to get the parts to fix it, or I go to Tractor Supply. Okay, I know it's there, pick up all the parts, put it back together. It's a destination. I know I can get it.
Right.
It's not something that you know you can get what you need there. So again, it's a destination. It's not like a pharmacy where I'm driving by, I'm gonna stop at the pharmacy or a grocery store or a convenience store or something like that.
Where do you plan to put signage?
So right now we're identifying either a monument or pylon sign up at this front corner. So when you're coming down the side access drive, you'll be looking at the pylon or freestanding sign. We haven't designed that part yet. The other sign would be, there's a front vestibule over the front door. We typically have a wall-mounted sign over that front vestibule. No sense in putting any signs to the side or the rear. All faces residential, plus we're gonna be screening it to shade, to screen the building. So there's no other signage. So I'm thinking right now there's two signs on the property. Maybe a directional sign at the driveway because the driveway is down the access drive a little bit.
Check our code. It's very specific.
Yep. Again, we haven't gotten to the actual design sign, but we will.
Customers for Tractor Supply know where they're going.
Yes, yes.
They know where they're going.
I apologize for not knowing this. Generally speaking, what are the hours of a Tractor Supply?
A typical Tractor Supply is 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. There are stores that tend to be open a little bit later, about 9 o'clock, especially during holiday season.
And 7 days?
7 days a week. Yes. We do close early on Sunday.
On the size, I think that the Chico's was a good comment, but what's interesting, and you can see on this aerial, is look at the size of Stop and Shop.
Stop and Shop is about 60 to 80,000 square feet, so it's substantially smaller than the Stop and Shop located here.
Dave or Steve, any comments at this point?
I think as the engineering progresses, just given the context of the site, especially on the northern side, thinking about the lighting of that parking lot and backing up to the residential use there and how the screening and lighting fixtures integrate with that. And also, if you could go back to the other layout that you're contemplating, the more triangular pad, that this also, I think, includes parking areas, but not the pad being located in the wetland buffer area. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
So just considering the impacts on that and what we can be incorporating for more environmentally appropriate stormwater management practices to offset that impact. Certainly from the entire site, we're adding some impervious there. And there's probably some good opportunity, given the grade that you have on the site, to work those in.
And I think just very quickly that kind of the benefit of this type of dialogue that the applicants had with your board previously, and to show how they've been responsive to listening to comments, I think has been a very positive aspect, at least for me, to see how the board is interacting with and providing direction. And I think it's also important to note that the Westchester Municipal Planning Federation has provided the Planned Hamlet as an accommodation award for this year's activities, so that all that hard work that the town did and with the applicant, Ms. Whitehead, is being recognized. Yeah, it has been recognized. And so I think that's important to note. And this is kind of like, as Rich mentioned, this is the kind of the last piece, the commercial piece, and how does that fit in with the balance of the development and with the hamlet. And I think they're taking a very sensitive approach with respect to buffering and landscaping.
And the Planning Federation Award will be presented virtually this year on November 29th. And so we'll be getting that commendation for they submitted, the town submitted it for an award.
Neato.
Any other board member comments?
That's your baby.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Very helpful.
Thank you. Our next meeting is November 10th, 2021, and we have a site walk a week from this Saturday, 9 o'clock.
Right.
Up at the Pinnacle.
9 AM.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Good night.
Night.